Welcome back to my campaign of War in the East 2. It is March 15th, 1942. I was hoping for a little bit of remnants of a blizzard to stick around. I'm learning that the German army is able to move, especially when your army's in the situation that mine's in. So I'm going to use this as the learning lesson that it is. And as I loaded my turn, things looked relatively decent. To the north, in between Tambov and Ryazin, there was a single combat, resulting in 2 rifle divisions being pushed back. In the south, it's business as usual. He advances up to my lines. This is just the land that I granted him in between the week. But he does engage in one deliberate attack. This results in the 301st Rifle Division fleeing to the east. I had to take it off of the 9th Airborne Corps and return it to Stavka, where it'll probably make its way to the coastline to a supply depot to refit and hopefully be able to come back to combat in about a month. But getting back to the actual front line, moving up towards Stalingrad, things begin predictably. He moves up here, does do a single bit of combat in the area southwest of the city itself. This results in 2 hexes being pushed back. But for the first time that I've ever noticed, I've actually had some decent air-to-air combat, albeit it's just unescorted bombers. But it's when I move northward, near the Veronezza region, that I realized that I do have a major problem. My lines are thin, as is obvious from the image alone, but a massive offensive goes eastward towards Saratov. And when I say massive, this is literally hex by hex, 20-some battles. Every single one of them is a victory for the Axis forces. This shreds a lot of good divisions for me. The only good news coming out of this is that he did not do any encirclements, so I'm going to be able to retreat. I will admit, at first glance, looking at this image was a little bit disheartening. There are solutions in the short term. Obviously, the Volga River is a major defensive line eventually. Combat will begin there a lot sooner than historically accurate, but we all knew that with the state of affairs of my campaign. And while it has taken me 3 campaigns against several different people to finally really start to understand how managing the army goes with this game, it's nice to get the AFE up to 4,000 on the map again for only the 3rd time since the war started. It's when I look at what's coming in the transfer window that I realize I have a problem looming on the horizon, but we all knew that was coming. So I'm not looking forward to the roughly 4,000 German tanks that'll be making their way to the front line soon. But what I am able to do is address some of my own theater boxes. I have a plethora of divisions and CV power in both the Northern Front and the Far East. One of them being a Guards Rifle Division that just formed this turn. So I'll be able to get the roughly 10 divisions to the map. The ones in the Northern Front only take 1 week to reach the reserves, and the ones in the Far East take 3. I'm not sure if I'm going to bring them directly to the map after that. I might give them another week each to refit in the reserves. But that all depends on how stressful things become as we get in closer to April. But that will bring the ones from the Northern Front roughly the beginning of April, and the ones from the Far East towards the end or possibly the first week of May, which might just be in time to prevent a major collapse. But I'm not as confident in that at this current moment in time. The other thing that keeps getting brought to my attention in manner of the desperate manpower shortage that the Russian army is facing at this point is that I keep wasting too much on these forts sitting on the front line. Now, in my mind, they're only like 1,000 each, but this goes back to the point from a couple videos ago where that adds up. And the other issue with them is that if they do fall, they can't retreat, so they just automatically surrender at 100%. So I was using them with like artillery and AA as a way to try to cause a little bit more damage or to beef up sections of the front that looked weaker. But from what I'm gathering, from what I'm being told, this is not an efficient way to do things. So I've gone up and down the front and basically disbanded every single one of these forts that are on the front line. Now, also, with my manpower shortage, the only thing logical in my mind to do when you're short on men is to order more brigades. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but these are what build the guards rifles. So as long as I keep doing 6 when I can get 2 rifle divisions out of them eventually, somewhere on the map when they need to be. I forget the number that you're allowed to have percentage wise, but I think I'm only at 1% so far, so I'm nowhere near that. Other than that, that's pretty much the major decisions that I've made this week. Everything else is just your standard Russian army in retreat. I'm trying to do it at a little bit of a slower pace down here in the south because wherever he does choose to attack me, at least on some of the mountain ranges, at least gives me some decent terrain. Northward, up on this newly destroyed area by Veroneza, it's pretty much 3 to 4 hexes again. Try to stay up out of his immediate combat power if he chooses to continue this offensive, which I have absolutely no idea why he would not. But at the point here is just to get abilities to rebuild some of these forces. I need to see what he does, which direction he chooses to go. I'm not going to call this a feint because this was definitely a very strong attack. But if the idea is to take Saratov, then I'm going to have to pretty much send all my new stuff in that direction. I think I have enough in the deep south, depending on what he's moving forward with. If this is all he has in this area, then I might be able to turn the table and push back, which would cause him to, or force him rather, to strip troops away from the rest of the front. So everything really depends on how March and April go. As things stand, I'm really very happy that he did not have those panzers on the map for that offensive because a lot of those units would have been cut off. So with the retreats that I did, fairly confident I'm in a position where he can't cut me off next turn either. I'm going to have to get ready for the fact that I'm going to be building tank cores soon. I do think my production line's ready for it. I think I did all the necessary refitting with everything else in the last several months. It's when I get rifle cores somewhere in summer that's going to be very difficult because obviously I don't even have the manpower to fill out this current army. And I'm depending on where his main attack's going to be, which city he's going for, Moscow, Saratov / Stalingrad, I'm going to need rifle cores there to stop or prevent it from falling. So I don't know. Anxious to see how this plays itself out. It is, for me at least, very exciting, but I'm going to hand it on back over and see what happens when I reach what I believe is the last turn for March.